It's Friday, 2 months and 27 days to Christmas, if I recall correctly. Maybe that's why I'm dressed in green and red. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. It's quite the day that it's been so far an interesting week, and the build-up to the elections in Rivers State is well on the way. There have been protests yesterday, and we look into all that drama. My name is Olive Emodi, and you're welcome to Breakfast Central.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawan. Yes, in Rivers State, of course, you were going to talk about that in a little bit, but as always, to encourage you to be a part of the conversations this morning by simply tweeting at News Central TV or join us via phone lines sometime in the 8 o'clock hour. And of course, wherever you might be watching us from this morning, thank you very much for joining us. So yes, in Rivers State, conflicting court judgments with the Federal High Court, of course, barring INEC from releasing the voters register to RESEC, as it is called, the River State Electoral Commission. Of course, the INEC spokesperson detailing that they have not released it, and of course, quoting Edo State as an example, and a couple other states as an example in his defense for INEC not releasing the voters register in River State. But at the same time, the spokesperson for the River State Electoral Commission of course, was yesterday saying that, yes, they currently do not have any information concerning the voters' registers and its release from INEC. That what they have is the 2023 voters' register, which is still legally to be used in the election this weekend in Rivers State. They do not have any word from INEC itself asking them to not go ahead with the election. And so, yes, they will go ahead with the election. In other, of course, conversations concerning the election, there's also court judgments barring the police from providing security during the elections. And I got to see Governor Siminalayi Fubara speaking with regards that, and of course, using very strong language towards the Inspector General of Police, accusing him of interfering with the elections in River State and River State governance, and also having a seemingly questionable relationship with someone in the Federal Capital Territory. I guess he's referring to the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike. And so the drama continues this morning, in River State. The governor has declared that elections will go on and nothing will stop the elections. He has said that they will use the voters register from 2023, which of course, was given to them by INEC. And it doesn't matter if a new one, or rather if a court has ruled that INEC should not release it to RESEC. RESEC itself has said that, yes, they would go on with the voters register that they have in their possession, and nothing will stop the elections, because the voters register they have can also be legally used to conduct elections in River State. So it's a complete mess from what we see going on in River State. A complete mess, and once again, it seems like politics is being played and will continue to affect governance in the state. We've tried to have conversations this weekend. We likely will be having further conversations as these things develop today and, of course, into the weekend. Olive, what are your thoughts?
Well, interesting. I just do think that I'm excited for the weekend. Maybe not as worried as, I wouldn't say, I don't know if excited is the right word. I would say that I'm just a bit nervous, for example, in Rivers State, about how things will turn out. Like you mentioned earlier, conflicting judgments. Again, is indicative of the fact that governance hasn't really been priority. In all of this is the people of Rivers State that are suffering, because there's a role that the court has to play in all of this. Why are we having conflicting court judgments on the same matter? Again, the role of the judiciary in ensuring that our democracy is being upheld is another thing to challenge. That's one. On the other hand, there's also the thought about when will governance actually be a priority. It's now a Team Sim Fubara versus Team Nyesom Wike, protest in this camp versus that camp, protest because the local government elections should hold or it shouldn't hold. Oh, we have, if they explain Nigeria to you and you understand, like they say on social media, they didn't probably explain properly, because how does INEC say they haven't given voters register to the River State Independent Electoral Commission, and then RESEC is saying, oh, we've had it since last year. They're saying it's the same 2023.
And they say it's an updated materials. One, according to the spokesperson.
No, what I'm hearing is that it's the same one that all the local government elections have used, that they have. Yeah. But INEC is saying that they didn't give to them. So which one is RESEC? Does RESEC have? Then Federal High Court says, don't go ahead with the elections. You didn't give 90 days notice. The court in
Supreme
Rivers
Court
State
gives a
says,
different ruling as
oh,
well.
go ahead with the elections. You have security. So it's just too many things happening at the same time.
They're also quoting, I think they're quoting the Supreme Court ruling that says that, elections must be carried out, within a 3-month period or so, which October 5th, coincides with. And that's why they are choosing October 5th as a date. The RSEC spokesperson or RESEC spokesperson says that they have an updated one. It might be from the one from last year, but it is still legally enough to be used for the elections to go on. The INEC spokesperson is saying a completely different thing, that they haven't given them, that what they have is the one from last year, but they haven't given them an updated one. And I think the challenge here is if there were more voters that got registered in that time frame, that they may not be on the one that RESEC plans to use to carry out the elections. Sim Fubara, while addressing the press yesterday or 2 days ago, I think it should be yesterday, said that the elections will go on, that there's nothing stopping them from carrying out elections, and that the current voter register that is in possession of RESEC, will be used, and there's nothing wrong with using that one. Basically that the elections would go on. And of course, it's daring anybody to try and stop the elections over the weekend. So again, it's a complete mess. And everyone is quoting one court order or the other. I think RESEC is quoting a Supreme Court ruling. And what we can also see here is one thing that I do not know is normal, where we see federal high courts and then state, high courts having their own separate rulings on the same issue. And what I can see there really is it's a tradition that we've gotten into lately, or in the last couple of years, where you can get a court ruling from a different state entirely on an issue in a state. I mean, you can get a court ruling in Imo State for a situation in Edo State, for example. You could go to Abuja and get a court ruling for a situation in Benue State. And I don't know that is okay, and it's a fair way to carry out or to handle our justice system in Nigeria. But yeah, I don't know. Very likely it will happen this weekend, or rather the elections will happen this weekend, and we will see how, of course, the court rulings will continue to emanate from there, or rather if they will be challenged, if the result of the elections will be challenged going forward. So we'll see. But these are conversations that we'll have this weekend, or rather this morning, and of course very likely also on Breakfast Extra over the weekend. They'll continue to explore what's going on in River State and how things turn out. But let's quickly share with you what our top stories are for this morning, and also bring you breakfast headlines.
Rivers PDP and APC hold joint protest over local government elections. And still in Rivers State, the local government poll, Governor Fubara wants troublemakers to stay away. We'll be updating you on what's happening in Rivers State. Court stops VIO from stopping and confiscating vehicles. Nigerians will most likely be excited by this update. And Lagos to ban single-use plastic sachet water by January 2025. The newspaper front pages will be reviewed, and we will open the phone line for you to join all these and more on Breakfast Central.
Now let's begin breakfast headlines in Nigeria, where state governors have launched a fresh bid to delay the implementation of the Supreme Court's judgment granting financial autonomy to local governments. The governors are reportedly mounting pressure on top federal officials to soften the implementation. Recall that the Supreme Court on July 11, 2024 delivered a landmark judgment affirming the financial autonomy of the 774 local government areas in Nigeria. The court ruled that it was illegal and unconstitutional for governors to manage and withhold local government funds. And the Senate has received President Bola Tinubu's communication seeking consideration and passage of the proposed fiscal policy and tax reform bill to align with ongoing financial reforms of the federal government and enhance efficiency in tax compliance. The House of Representatives also received 4 bills that were forwarded by the president. They include the Nigerian Tax Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. On October 1st, 2024, during his speech on Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary, President Tinubu said some economic stabilization bills will be transmitted to the National Assembly. Also, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, said Withholding Tax Regulations 2024 has been gazetted. And now to judicial matters. Justice Marian Aneni of a High Court of the Federal Capital Territory has issued a public summons against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, to attend court and answer to a fresh 16-count pending allegations against him. By the summons, the former governor is to attend court on October 24th in response to the summons and for his arraignment along with 2 other defendants. Justice Aneni issued the order for public summons in a ruling following an application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Aneni ordered the EFCC to publish the public summons in a widely circulating newspaper. She also ordered the EFCC to paste copies of the public summons at the former governor's last known address and in conspicuous places on court premises. Also in the news, Justice Evelyn Maha of the Federal High Court in Abuja has issued an order banning the Directorate of Road Traffic Services, also called the Vehicle Inspection Office, VIO, from further stopping vehicles on the road, impounding or confiscating vehicles, and imposing fines on motorists. In a judgment on Thursday, Justice Maha issued the order on a fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by human rights activist and public interest attorney Abubakar Marshall. Also affected by the order, the Director of Road Transport, the Area Commander Jabi, and the Team Leader Jabi, and the Minister of the FCT, also listed as respondents. Justice Maha upheld Marshall's argument that no law empowers the respondent to stop, impound, confiscate, seize, or impose fines on motorists. Now, still in West Africa, hundreds of Ghanaians protested on the streets of the capital city of Accra on Thursday to demand an immediate halt to illegal mining. The demonstrators, most of them university students who plan to stage rallies for 3 days, are also demanding the release of 54 activists detained last month for demonstrating against illegal mining. The government's handling of illegal mining, particularly its impact on natural resources and rural livelihoods, has become a flashpoint in the run-up to the West African country's presidential elections in December. Chanting the Ghanaian national anthem and singing patriotic songs, the protesters, draped in red and black attire, danced through the streets of the capital. And now moving to Central Africa, rescuers have recovered around 20 bodies after a boat carrying passengers and goods capsized on Lake Kivu in eastern DR Congo on Thursday. According to security and harbor officials, the vessel had departed from Minova in South Kivu province and sank just 100 meters from its destination at the shore of Goma, the capital of North Kivu. Authorities have yet to confirm the exact number of passengers aboard, but medical source reported that 2 children rushed to the hospital died before receiving treatment. Many people are choosing to travel by boat across the northern tip of Lake Kivu to reach Goma, seeking to avoid overland routes that are dangerous due to ongoing clashes between Congolese government forces and the rebel group M23. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Let's now move back to Breakfast Central and continue with our top stories. I am Osaugie Ogbonwa.
Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has said that his administration is determined to support the cause of developing a sustainable democracy and will therefore not tolerate any misguided group or individual attempting to create confusion or any form of instability in the state. The governor also urged every registered voter and leaders of political groups to ensure they are at their polling units on Saturday, the 5th day of October 2024, to participate in the process. I will usher in new political leadership in the 23 local government councils. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu tells us more.
Governor Siminalayi Fubara is unwavering in ensuring the Rivers State local government elections are conducted across the 23 council areas of the state. The governor is meeting with the political class and the generality of the electorate in the state at Government House, Port Harcourt, with the needed assurances of the support of the state governments to the electoral process as it gravitates towards its climax.
But at least I understand that it has nothing to do with any federal agency. It's a state matter. And thirdly, the beginning of this process to the end is between our own. It has nothing to do with any federal judicial institution. So we should understand this fact and play according to the rules.
Governor Fubara regrets why some 7 people are bent on hashing their plots to derail the course of the election, when states that have no duly elected local government councils across the country are planning to do so in order not to run far of the Supreme Court ruling. Fubara revealed how his insistence on peace and determination to follow the electoral process had unsettled some persons.
You know, this election, I'm the greatest loser. My party is not participating. The president, after the Supreme Court invited us, and we had an understanding that we have a compliance duration of 90 days. So what we're doing here is to make sure that even if my party is not participating, the council process must stand for the person.
The governor, however, appealed to would-be voters to return to their various AGAs, follow the process, be law-abiding, and eschew violence. Meanwhile, there are heavily armed security personnel stationed at RISEC head office in Port Harcourt for News Central. I'm Austin Azu.
Still staying in Rivers State, the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has thwarted an attempt by alleged rogue policemen to take over the Rivers State House Independent Electoral Commission, RISEC. The incident occurred at 1 a.m. on Friday, October 4, 2024, when the policemen attempted to break into the commission's gates and strong room to confiscate sensitive electoral materials meant for the local government elections scheduled for Saturday.
Now, Governor Fubara swiftly responded to the situation, leading a team of government officials, lawmakers and stakeholders to the facility. He condemned the actions of the policemen, stating that the Inspector General of Police, IGP, was overstepping his boundaries due to his friendship with Abuja-based politicians. The governor emphasized that local government elections are the internal affairs of states and should be conducted without interference. He also criticized the attempt to replace the existing police deployment with a detachment from a neighboring state.
I have to say this on a very strong note. We've been taking enough nonsense from this institution. Everybody is aware of the court judgment, and even the judgment as they call it, the ruling. Did the ruling specify anywhere that election should not hold? He said, don't give voters register. What are we doing with it? Okay, police, don't provide security. Don't provide security. Is this the same thing as blocking the election? I don't know what the relationship between Inspector General of Police and one person who claims he has so much power in this state. I don't know the relationship because it's beginning to go beyond the normal professional relationship. I said the government wrote a letter with the judgment that we have to him, and what he's acting on is what he called the federal government, the judgment he got from the Federal High Court. Even at that, if we should go by that, the judgment in the Federal High Court, did he say election should be bad? Lawful, that justice that gave that fraudulent judgment, did he say no?
Well, there you have it. The governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, he insists that the local government elections will proceed on the 5th of October, which of course is tomorrow. We're joined this morning by Austin Azu, who's our correspondent in Rivers State. Good morning, Austin, and how are you today? Tell us about River State. What's going on all around the state? All right, I think we're trying to establish that connection with him. But of course, just before we fix that connection, the drama continues, and it's still all about River State, and I think anyone who has followed the story from the start knows that it is a continuation of the Nyesom Wike faction versus the Sim Fubara faction in River State, and the FCT minister has repeatedly said, that he would, he's never let his guard down concerning River State, and it seems he still is doing what he might, or he wants to do rather, to have a hold or have some grip on River State. Many people have also called on Mr. President to intervene at this time, seeing that it is affecting the affairs of the state and affecting governance in the state. But nobody knows how that will play out. But as it stands, elections will go on in River State tomorrow, even if INEC itself says that they haven't released the voters register to the River State Independent Electoral Commission. RSEC, RSEC rather, as they are called. They have also then said, the spokesperson yesterday said, that they do not necessarily need a voters register or a new voters register from INEC, and they don't have any correspondence saying that they need a new voters register from INEC. What they currently will use is the voters register from 2023, which they, of course, have in their possession. The INEC spokesperson, of course, was quoted as saying that they have not released a new voters register. All right, Austin, good morning, and thanks for joining us again. Austin Azu, good morning. Can you hear us? All right. Again, trying to fix the sound and the connection there with Austin Azu, who is live in River State. It seems to be a rainy Friday morning over there, but we would fix that connection and get the conversation going. Just to get a feel of what the people of River State have to say about the elections. Will they be participating in local government elections or not? And of course, the news about the protest yesterday, get some information concerning that. What was that protest all about? What did they have to say? And will that in any way affect the elections? The police also, the Inspector General of Police also saying that they will not be providing security for the elections, citing a court order as well. How would that affect the turnout of the elections? Are there security concerns, and fears for voters to come out in River State tomorrow? These are some of the major conversations that must be had concerning this. Olive?
Yes,
it's unending drama, and like I've said, it looks very clearly to be a continuation of the Nyesom Wike versus Sim Fubara drama that has started, right from, right after inauguration of the current government in River State. People have obviously taken sides, and what it seems that the FCT, there's a presence in the FCT that has some influence on these institutions, including, of course, the police and INEC. Austin Azu, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
All right, good morning. Go ahead and let us know what's going on in River State. I can see that it's a rainy Friday morning. What's the latest concerning the River State local government elections?
And as early as 1 a.m. today, the governor of the state, Siminalayi Fubara, came into RISEC office. He got an intent of some alleged police officers allegedly deployed by the ACP to take over the RISEC office. Of course, he found it not very comfortable, so he moved to the RISEC center here, and he himself and other government officials, and they were able to, foil their coming to this place. But meanwhile, we have a large supporters of the governors here, and not only that, you can see that they have defied the rain, kind of jubilating that they have taken over the RISEC office against an alleged plan by some persons to have disrupted the local government election that is being to take place tomorrow. However, behind me, you can see a lot of political supporters as well. Not as if they are here to celebrate the victory of the poll, but they are kind of celebrating the achievement that local government election must hold. Because of the rain, most of them will not be able to come out, and we met some of them earlier on. They are kind of saying that they want the local government election to hold, and what they are asking for is just for tomorrow to come for them to perfect the election so that every other thing will remain. They want to join other states in Nigeria that have conducted local government election. By and large, the road has been barricaded to RISEC office. The only way you can pass through this road, because this particular road connects to Aba, which is Abia State. So if you are on transit, you cannot pass the other road that leads, that can connect you to the head office. Security personnel have taken over the place. The security personnel, you can see the armed security personnel. The armed security personnel, they have taken over the place. Man, they're fighting the rain to protect this RISEC office. Don't forget too well that they have sensitive materials that are yet to be deployed to the various local government areas for the election. But it's raining here, and a lot of persons loyal to the governor,
who these security men are, where they're from, because from the videos from early this morning or yesterday morning, Governor Siminalayi Fubara at the RISEC office, was saying that, he was basically speaking about the Inspector General of Police and his involvement in River State governance and River State politics. There's a court order saying that no policemen should be provided, security should not be provided for the election. So can you clarify, who these policemen are, and, are they from the state government?
Yes, we got a press release from the State Police Command regarding that effect, and from the statements that the police issued, they clarified that the first order given by the State High Court, that order will be followed, and hence they agreed to deploy their troops and their men to ensure they are able to provide security for the commission. As of yesterday, we saw the presence of heavily armed security personnel stationed at this place, believed to have been deployed for the State Police Command. But later in the night, we saw other trucks that have been deployed, allegedly deployed by the ACP to replace those existing security personnel that have been deployed at this particular commission to provide security. So obviously the police, from the statements from the State Police Command, it shows that they are obeying the first court order for them to provide security for the local government election. And they quite agree that yes, local government election is taking place on Saturday, hence their men were deployed.
Okay, but I want to ask, where you are, you have supporters who are there, in your words, celebrating the fact that the local government elections will hold. But if we look at a cross-section of citizens in Rivers State, what is the thoughts or the sentiment that you're seeing being shared across the state? Because like we saw, there was a protest yesterday with the PDP and the APC protesting against the local government election scheduled to happen tomorrow. So from what you've seen in other parts, away from where you're currently reporting from, have you heard the general sentiment that has been, talked about across the state?
Well, in regards to their preparation and their readiness for the local government election, it quite seems that the locals, most of them, some of them who are enlightened, they are well prepared. And like I said earlier on, because of the rain, would have been able to get one or two persons to state their readiness for the poll. But nevertheless, others who seem to have had this conflicting court judgment are yet to make up their mind if they will go to the poll or not. But what we are seeing playing out in Rivers State in recent days might really have cause to worry because of the conflicting court judgments. But like the governor will always say, that it's a local election and the court did not bar the commission not to conduct the election. That what the court was equally saying was like not to give the RISEC, the voters register But he said that the state has its own voter register, that they will go and conduct the local government election. But nevertheless, like I said earlier on, most of the locals, some of them are quite aware of the council election, but their worry remains that of the conflicting court judgments. By and large, the police have reaffirmed that they will deploy their men for the council election, and the governor has insisted on several fora that there will be local government election. So it means the state is ready, and the people of Rivers State are ready for the poll, except few individuals who are not yet certain and who are still head-bent on ensuring that the local government election don't take place.
Yeah, all right. Austin Azu, thank you very much for joining us and, of course, bringing us this live report. We expect that, of course, you continue to monitor things over there in Rivers State and, give us updates when they arrive. Thank you very much once again. All right. We, of course, still focused on Rivers State. And you can tell there's a lot of dedication this morning, seeing people standing there right in the pouring rain in Rivers State just to be a part of the electoral process, or at least, to see what's going on over there in the state. We'll see how things turn out. The Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, insists that the local government elections will proceed as scheduled on October 5th, despite protests from loyalists of his predecessor, Nyesom Wike. Fubara warned against any attempts to disrupt the electoral process, emphasizing his commitment to maintain stability in the state. The People's Democratic Party members loyal to Wike, along with a faction of the All Progressive Congress, have withdrawn from the election, citing irregularities and lack of due process by the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. However, another APC faction led by Emeka Bekele is participating with candidates in 22 of the 23 local government areas of the state.
A temporary injunction from the Federal High Court in Abuja has prevented the Independent National Electoral Commission from releasing the voter register, and security agencies have been restrained from providing security. Despite this, the RISEC claims to have access to the voter register and is ready to conduct the elections. The Rivers State chapter of the PDP, led by Chairman Aaron Chukwuemeka, staged the protest against the planned election, defying heavy rainfall. The protesters submitted a petition to the State Police Command headquarters, emphasizing the PDP's non-participation and warning against any crisis that may result from, the elections happening. Joining us now is the State Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Honorable Sol Swema Osaro. He'll be joining us much later to have this conversation. I mean, it's a lot of drama that's going on with Rivers State, and I'm sure that we'd have some clarity. Tomorrow is, just a few hours away. The 5th of October is just a few hours away, and we'll find out what the picture really is.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, I think the elections will hold. There might be litigation right after the election.
There will be litigation.
Right after, but of course, Governor Siminalayi Fubara's argument is that the courts simply said INEC should not give RISEC the voters register, the updated voters register, and, the court did not say the election should not hold. RISEC itself says that we have a voters register from 2023, which we've been using. It is the updated one, and we'll go ahead and use that one. And so the litigations, of course, I'm sure would be to determine if the elections were carried out legally or not. And of course within the legal framework with which elections should be carried out. So those are some of the things that I'm sure that would arise right after. Siminalayi Fubara also mentioned a couple of days ago that he seems to be the biggest loser because his party is not participating.
The elections.
Those a couple of days ago we also heard that there were movements from the PDP to the APP in Rivers State.
So it's not like the PDP, APC, APP, lots of drama. But let's get into the conversation proper. We're joined this morning by the State Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Honorable Sol Swema Osaro. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
So talk to us about the protest that occurred yesterday against the local government elections. We're seeing, we saw the videos, we saw the pictures, and we got the updates regarding the protest. Why is this happening? Honorable Osaro.
Hello.
Honorable Sol Swema, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We're asking that you please talk to us about why exactly the protest against, the local government election scheduled to happen on the 5th of October, why the protest took place?
Well, it is very obvious from what you have seen, from what is happening today, that you have some unpatriotic Rivers people or persons who feel they can put Rivers State in their pocket. We in Rivers State, genuine Rivers citizens,
I'm not sure
government that is the most, there is that.
I'm not sure if it would be convenient, to keep up with the conversation. The connection seems to be very poor from the state chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Honorable Suswema Osaro. But of course, as we try to fix that connection, the conversations will continue. Remember, you can simply tweet at us this morning at News Central TV or tweet at myself or Olive individually, and share your thoughts with us, on the current situation in Rivers State. We will try to re-establish a connection this morning with the Inter-Party Advisory Council state chairman in Rivers State and see if we can have his thoughts on what's going on there in the state. But yes, the drama continues, and from what it seems, this may not be the last bit of drama between Governor Fubara and, of course, those loyal to the FCT minister and former governor of the state, Nyesom Wike. The conversations will, of course, continue. Let's take a very short break, and when we come back, we continue this morning on Breakfast Central.
Now let's move on to other conversations. The Lagos State government has announced plans to ban single-use plastics and sachet water starting January 2025. Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, made the announcement at a stakeholders workshop. The ban aims to promote sustainable management of plastic waste and create a healthier environment. This follows the January 2024 ban on styrofoam in government establishments and across the metropolis.
Stakeholders, including the Association of Table Water Producers of Nigeria, have urged the government to implement the ban in phases. ATWAP chairman Mosako Ololade requested phased implementation to allow its 2,000 members with over 10,000 workers to comply. The Lagos State government's move is part of efforts to address public plastic waste and environmental pollution. Now, details of the implementation plan and alternatives to single-use plastics and sachet waters are expected to be announced in due course. Joining us now is the director of Fortress Consulting, expert in environmental, social, and governance, strategies, and more, Suraj Oyewale. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
How are you?
Very well. Quickly, what are your initial thoughts or your immediate thoughts on the necessity to ban single-use plastics, just like the Lagos State government has done? And do you think it's a sustainable move?
Thanks so much for having me once again. And on the general notes, I believe that we cannot continue to if you look at the impact of this, of these single-use plastics, especially talk about the impact on the environment, on health, and all of those. At some point they have to go. But the question is whether we are ready for them, whether the alternatives, whether our system as it is at the moment, can actually absorb the other effects of implementing this at this time. So from an environmental and health perspective, which is very, very critical, I believe that it's not something that is sustainable. Okay, the impact on the environment is very obvious. If you go around Lagos is a coastal city. You go around Lagos, you see how dirty the coastal waters are, and the majority of what you find there are all these plastics that have been disposed carelessly by people. So so it's not in doubt that at some point we have to find a solution to this, and this is one of the solutions the government are finding. But the question is whether the approach is the best at the moment, or whether the system we are in is ready for it.
What would you say are possible replacements for these single-use plastics and styrofoam?
Okay, I was in Rwanda early, sometime last year. Late last year, and Rwanda is one of the countries that have actually banned these things. And I never even paid attention to it, even though I was, a consultant in the space, and I had, done some work consulting on the, on all of these environmental issues. And but seeing it in practice for the first time, I went to a shop. I was expecting to be given a bag as the, to pack the items I bought in that Kigali shop. Only for me to be had to pay for, a paper, some papers, paper package, which, which is the, which is what the government of that country allows to use to pack, and it was quite awkward, to be honest with you. So yes, paper is, is one of the alternatives in countries that have already doing this, especially for the packaging materials. Bagging materials, and paper bagging is, is something that has been used. Then for those that have to do with liquid, they use maybe more durable plastic, reusable plastic, and rather than all these single-use, plastics, which ultimately affect the environment when they are disposed. But the question is whether those ones are also sustainable, because if you're talking about the paper bag, they also get disposed at some point, even though they are easier. They decompose much easily than these, plastics, so they pose less, environmental danger, and they can also be burnt much easily if they need to be burnt. Even the burning has its own environmental adverse effects. So these are the alternatives in countries that, have adopted this. But the question is whether they, whether they also, how sustainable they also are. But we've seen these alternatives in use in other countries, and they come with their own small inconvenience. But it's from an environmental standpoint, they are a little more less dangerous to the environment compared to the prevalent single-use plastics we have at the moment.
And I completely agree with you. I see the danger that it is to the environment, how long it takes plastics to actually break down. And even with the research that is being done in terms of how they get into the soil, how we consume them. But the question now is, how much information have we put out? How much information, or how, now between now and January is such a short time, how much information is out there intentionally, deliberately, not just letting people know that this is being banned, but letting them understand why it is being banned and the danger it is to the environment and, to us as well?
Yeah, the latest announcement by government was after a stakeholder meeting, which aired, and I think on Thursday. So you could see that's one of the environment, one of the measures taken by government to enlighten the people, coming up, starting with the stakeholders. And this is the first week of October. We have October, November, and December, 3 weeks before January, and you can see that that looks like sufficient time to communicate to people, to communicate to people, not just the producer, because you have a lot of other stakeholders in this. You have the producers, you have the middlemen, that's the retailers and wholesalers, and you have the end users themselves. People use it. So I also believe that maybe we could do better in the timing. Maybe something like June could have been a better, between now and June next year, that's 8-9 months. Maybe that could have been a better, opportunity to spread the message, to enlighten people about the alternatives, to let people know that they can even go to, they can go to, buy water with their own cup, with their own maybe plastic. With their own more durable plastic, their own water bottle. They can go with their own more durable container to to get things in the shops. Rather than being given all these less durable single-use plastics. So I believe that I can advise the government of Lagos State to maybe think of postponing this. But the way things work in Nigeria is that most things people don't get serious about things until it's just few days or weeks to the timeline. So it's not exactly out of place for government to announce at the start that January is a time for us to implement this. But at some point they may just have to consider maybe moving it forward a little and see.
The ATWAP chairman of course, Association of Table Water Producers of Nigeria, ATWA, has asked for phased implementation of this ruling, or this ban rather, which, I think a lot of people would agree with. But, like you've mentioned, a lot of Nigerians do not act until, there's, a deadline fast approaching. So there's that part, but you also mentioned water, and I think that's also key because as they popularly call them here, pure water sachets, they are the most affordable for, the basic, and common Nigerian. Not very many Nigerians are able to afford the water packs in bottles. And so, how do you think that is going to affect the purchase of water across the state?
Okay, I think it would have been much easier if you had a functional and reliable public water system. We go abroad, we go to the UK and some other countries in Europe, and we see that, they have public water system where even in the airport, if you cannot afford to buy water in the airport, you can see where you can put the tap, get water from your own cup, drink the water and all of these things. So if our government had, if we had a reliable public water system in Nigeria, where people could also easily use it's easy to go around with, our own containers, our own more durable containers. Most of us in Lagos, they say we are mothers, we carry bag around, and having our own cup in the bag, getting the nearest, water, point, whether free, opening the tap, getting the water if it's, consumable, and, drinking the water. That might, these are things that has worked in other countries where these things are less pronounced, but the challenge with us in Nigeria is the fact that, such system is totally collapsed. So we don't have that, and we need to rely on all the short, single-use materials as ways of, packaging for this water. So the government, but this is a long term, I will not lie, but if the government could also fix the public water system, it could even be some arrangements where it could be some private sector people can even take it up, like making water available at different points, you getting your cup to use it. If that is done in the highest earth standard, okay, that is something that could also reduce the demand, the dependence on single-use the alternatives to pure water when they're back. But I agree with the chairman of the ATWAP that says, who is suggesting that this needs to be faced. What that means is that maybe you could start from maybe the high-class environment or high-class event and say that, okay, in certain event centers, no use of certain type of plastic packages. It's easier for them to manage it, to package it. There are some point they move to the next phase of these things. Maybe after some 6 months, they move to the next phase of user group, and little by little these things become an habit. And another thing about this is that apart from the system issue, there's also these things becoming an habit. For example, I like to mention Kigali a lot, Rwanda, because it's their president, even though is people say it's dictatorial. These things start as rules. Most of these things start as rules, and they end up being habits for people. Okay, people comply out of fear. You don't throw. Kigali is perhaps the cleanest city in Africa. Okay, and these things start from the fear of their president, of the government. If you throw something on the of their law, to throw something on the floor, okay? But at some point, it became an habit that even we are not, we are just visitors, we find it very, very, strange to just put something on the floor, to just dispose something indiscriminately because that become part of the habit of the own people. So I believe that that's one of the advantages of making this thing faced, okay? Starting with the law, and at some point the whole thing moving to habit for people. So these are my own thoughts on on the alternatives, as well as getting people to comply.
All right. It's a good move. It's an understandable move. Will not be understood by some, especially because where we are in Lagos, Nigeria, in terms of, like my colleague has mentioned, access to portable water. And the suggestions you've made are suggestions that will be implemented over time. The current reality of what we have might not be able to match that, but I guess we'll just wait for the next few months to see what Lagos State has in store and how this will be phased out. Thank you very much, Suraj Oyewale, for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, let's share with you a recap of the conversations this morning and let you know what's happening next. Reverse PDP, APC hold joint protest over local government election is how we began the show, and it's been an underlying theme all through the show. Lagos to ban single-use plastics, sachet water by January 2025. Rivers local government poll, Governor Fubara wants troublemakers to stay away. Now let's share what's coming up next.
Coming up next, court stops VIO from stopping and confiscating vehicles. We'll also bring you the newspaper front pages this Friday morning, and also share with you what our top stories of the week are.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's go through the papers together, and we'll be opening the phone lines as well. If you'd like to talk about any of the stories that stick out particularly for you, please feel free to call the numbers on your screen. But we'll be beginning with our first paper this morning, this Nigerian newspaper. On the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, 7,260 persons killed by bandits in 2 years. Ex-head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar, laments evil of insecurity in the north. Again, court summons ex-Kogi Governor Bello over alleged 110 billion naira fraud. We also have Senate approves new development commission for South Zone. Inflation, oil, gas workers lament hardship in Nigeria. At the top of the paper, transparency needed to unlock Nigeria's energy potential, according to NIT. And that's all on this Nigerian newspaper. Let's move over to the next paper.
Our next paper this morning is the Vanguard newspapers, and big one there says minimum wage disquiet as federal government makes selective payment. Labor leaders kick, say government is insensitive to suffering of workers. Workers lament hardship. Many sleep in offices, trek to work due to high transport cost. Delay affecting productivity, and also varsity workers worst hit, says SANU. Reps to AGF expedite trials of persons in prolonged detention. Court to VIO and others, you have no power to seize vehicles or impose fines. We can also find here PDP, APC protests Rivers local government elections. That's also one of the stories that we kicked off the program with this morning, and it's likely going to be one of the biggest stories over the weekend, as the elections would likely go on in Rivers State, according to what the state governor has said. Soludo is the problem, not solution in Anambra, says Obiora Okonkwo. We are voting more resources to fight terror and banditry, says the federal government. And also the federal government denies anti-North bias in distribution of road projects. Says North has 52%, South 48%. MPR hikes. Banks interest income up 141.8% to 6.9 trillion naira. Those are the stories on the Vanguard newspapers this morning.
And on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper, we have the big story, insecurity. CDS Musa kicks against hiring of military contractors. Says hiring military contractors will aggravate insecurity in Nigeria. Lists reasons why fight against terrorists and bandits has dragged for years. Tax reforms. Federal government mulls changing FIRS to NRS as Tinubu forward tax reforms bills to National Assembly. NAITI calls for transparency to unlock Nigeria's energy potential. Shetima commissions Enugu Fashion Garment Hub gives MSME participants 10 million naira support. Nigerian universities on brink of shutting down due to funding, according to ASU. ASUP issues 14-day ultimatum to federal government over unresolved issues. CBN introduces electronic foreign exchange matching system to curb speculation. There's a photograph here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Commandant General Special Intelligence Squad of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps arrested suspected artisanal oil refineries site operators in Umuahia, Umuelechi boundary communities in Abia State. And this is a photograph by the NSCDC. And that's all we have this morning on the newspapers. So it's time for us to look at the stories again, to ask that we open the phone lines, and if there are any stories that you have or that particularly speak to you, you can please call in and share your thoughts.
All right, I think we could just pick off here and there with regards on these papers. I think on the Daily Times, I think this was pretty interesting. The CDS, Musa kicks against hiring of military contractors, saying hiring military contractors will aggravate insecurity in Nigeria. I'm not sure how or what his argument is with regards to that. How does that aggravate insecurity in Nigeria? List reasons why fight against terrorists and bandits has dragged for years. Might be, important to open up that story and see exactly what his argument is. And we're talking about Chief of Defense Staff, I believe, Musa, kicking against the hiring of military contractors. If you remember in 2014, one of the things that was quite, widely known then were the gains that Nigeria had in the fight against insecurity because of the military contractors that were hired by the Yahaya Bello Jonathan administration in the end, at least moving into the end of 2014, I think sometime in November or so, where they worked. It is widely reported that they gained a lot of ground and they were able to achieve a lot in the fight against insecurity, wiping out a lot of those Boko Haram fighters and the likes back then. Since then, of course, the Buhari administration came in 2015, canceled those contracts as it is reported. Of course, we went back to our regular way of doing things, which is with the Nigerian Army and other security agencies. Since then, of course, our problem has then ballooned beyond just Boko Haram. Now, we've now been talking about, ISWAP. We're now talking about bandits. We're talking about kidnappers, and every other, unknown gunmen, which then spread not just, through northern Nigeria, but, even to the southern part of Nigeria, beg your pardon. So, the argument, I think it was Senator Aliyu Ndume who put forward that argument that we should hire military contractors. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would agree with him, that if the army is not enough, if the Nigerian security agencies generally are not enough or not, winning the war, then maybe we need extra hands.
Exactly.
And maybe we need help.
It's okay to ask for help. I mean, no man is an island, especially because this is something that affects the core of, our existence as a country. Not only does it affect the lives directly because people are being killed, it's crippling the economy because people can't run their businesses again. Farmers can't go to the farm. And if farmers can't go to the farm, we don't have food to eat. So it's hitting at the core of our survival as a nation. Also, it's affecting our tourism. People can't come into Nigeria freely and say they want to explore. We have such beautiful natural resources, natural tourist attractions that people should come and explore. But even we Nigerians cannot explore our country. If you want to travel, you rather gather your coins together until you can afford to go abroad because you know that if you are traveling to the north or traveling to certain parts, you're worried about being kidnapped. So it goes to the core of who we are as a people. If we can't fix it, maybe we should get external help. Let's take our call. We have Lenin calling from Abuja. Good morning, Lenin.
Good morning, Ali. Good morning. Sorry.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Good morning.
This Lagos state government planning to ban this sachet water and the others. The policies that the government always make, they make this policy based on their own standard. They don't take consideration to the poor people. Now, number one, there's no pipe-borne water, there's no clean water flowing in every citizen of Lagos, in their kitchen, in any way they can just get and drink. So now, how are they going to survive? Have they thought about that? Now, even the sachet water, it's not everybody that can buy it now because it's very expensive, about 1,000 naira, almost 1,000 naira per this thing from 15 naira they used to have. Now, there are policies that are just against the poor. Donald Duke in Cross River State, 1999 to 2007, Calabar was clean. It was a policy. He has people that will come and pick your waste bin every 3 days or so. So everybody knew that this is where I will put my sachet water. This is where I put this in. So these people come regularly to pick. So when they do this thing, like Lagos State are doing, because the government they failed on their own part, so they just want to punish it. Just take for instance, like Okada, for instance, they will say ban Okada in certain area. Why they ban Okada is that because people are using Okada to steal. Now, anytime they use cars or taxi to do one taxi, they ban cars. They don't because they are using the cars too. So these policies are always against the poor people.
All right.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much for calling in.
yeah, so he does have a point, but I think, as they say, two truths can coexist.
Exactly. I wanted to respond to that as well.
You could go on.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to say that I completely get where he's coming from. Indeed and in truth, it doesn't favor the poor people. The cost of, we don't have access to clean and potable water in 2024. That's a fact.
Yeah.
People can't even afford to buy pure water, pure or sachet water.
Which of course the price has, tripled.
It has tripled, right?
Yes.
So people can't even afford that. So scrapping that, what are the other alternatives? However, I do not think that this policy by the government is aimed at making life difficult intentionally for the poor people. Why? Because in Western climes, if you go, you don't even need to go to the West. Rwanda, for example, from the airport in Kigali, you won't take your plastic bags it won't even enter into their country. In other climes, in Namibia, I remember also trying to buy things, and they would ask you, are you coming with a reusable bag, reusable water bottle? If you break down the damage that plastic does to the environment, if this plastic, the plastic bottle, it doesn't break down completely. It breaks down into microplastics. And research shows that it takes the soil at least 500 years to be able to absorb this. And when it absorbs this into the earth, sometimes it's getting into your water, your fishes are eating it, and then you're reconsuming these things. It's never completely broken down. It's damaged, it's bad. Again, like you said, two truths can exist. The fact that it is bad for the people, it's bad for the environment and invariably for us, and also that the policy is hard on Nigerians. So you can't do, in an attempt to do one good, cause further harm. Which is like what people said with, let me just quickly wrap this up. Which is what people said with the policies that the government made, removal of subsidy and all of that, whilst they're not bad in itself, but they're inflicting more hardship on people. So you have to really weigh what your options are. Do the good, or do good that will inflict more hardship on
we need to take a call, but I don't necessarily, think the argument, about the environment, would work for the average Nigerian. But I will respond to that in a bit.
Right.
Good morning, Dan from Edo State. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Dan, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. I'm Aibo Haidamtala calling from Edo State. Are you hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, I'm calling concerning about what is happening in Port Harcourt. So, the matter there is that you see that everything that is happening there, all is about the APC government. This man is trying to twist everything down. He's trying to spoil politics in Nigeria.
Which man are you talking about? Which man are you talking about?
There is the president himself now, the Tinubu himself. He's not doing well for this country.
Okay.
He's not doing well for this country. He didn't mean well for this country because look at what is happening in Port Harcourt, what's happening in those states and other states. You want to cause riot in this our country. So please, we should talk to this man.
Can you clarify what you mean? Can you clarify what you mean by the president wanting to, turn things, disrupt things in River State?
All about what I'm saying is that even what is happening concerning the judgment that they said that is restrain the governor not to conduct a local government election, all those things. So if you look at it, the handwork of Tinubu, not anything.
How?
So
all right, you know what? Thank you very much, Dan.
The president is the one that causing all those problems down.
All right,
it's not even, the wicked is not even the problem.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. But I do think that it's important for us to be clear and to be factual. The president cannot really, and I'm not holding brief for the president in this case, but I don't see the direct correlation to say it's the president's fault that what is happening in
I think what he's trying to express is, I think what he's trying to express, is his feelings towards the current administration and its handling of INEC and, other institutions. So, he is mostly trying to say, I believe, that just like what happened in Edo State, because he's calling from Edo State, he mentioned that it's pretty much the same thing that's almost going to happen in River State, and it's because of the influence of the current administration.
And I get it.
He's trying to say.
I get that it's the administration, everything. I just want to clarify because there are people who are listening. I will take everything who client and thinker. There are people who are in charge. he can't say that it's not Wike's fault. If you see that Wike has the direct role he's playing, that it's not even Wike's fault, it's the president's fault. Because if Wike, for example, there are people who are loyalists to Wike that are staging protests and doing all the likes, and Wike has never come out to say, don't do this. So the same way that Nnamdi Kanu, for example, when people were going about and causing havoc, and he will come out to say, we do not authorize or endorse these people who are going about killing. It's not part of what our mission is. If you've never come out to condemn them, especially because they're doing this quote unquote in your name, then you're culpable. So we can't remove Wike from the picture and put the president.
Again, from my understanding, and of course, Dan has had his say. I'm just expressing what I understood from what he was trying to say. He's mostly trying to blame the current administration generally. I don't think he was trying to completely, say, oh, it's not Nyesom Wike who's involved. But good morning, Francis.
Good morning, Francis. Okay.
All right.
But
anyway,
okay, you wanted to
I wanted to, while we try to speak with Francis.
Francis is here. Please go ahead.
So I wanted to, say that, I mean, so the average Nigerian, if you try to sell an argument to them and, your points are, oh, it's dangerous because of, the soil would not absorb, the average Nigerian doesn't care. That's the least of our problems, at this point. All those climate change arguments, don't really matter. And initially I was saying two truths can coexist, and what I also thought to mention, using Rwanda as an example is great, but I think it's also important to mention that I think Rwanda has also been able to put every single aspect of environmental protection in play, which is that aside the not allowing you bring in your plastics, they've also been able to ensure that the factors on waste management are properly functional in Rwanda. They wouldn't have gutters blocked or clogged. They wouldn't tell, contractors to go and pack things out of the gutter and then abandon them there, for 5 days, as you see here in Lagos. So there are certain things that have come to play in Rwanda, that have made it then easy for them to say, okay, we have achieved these steps.
So it's basically putting the horse before the cart.
Yeah, no, I mean, so all these things need to work together. That's my point. It's not just it's not one step. It's a combination of things. Good morning, Francis, once again.
Good morning, Francis.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. Good morning. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. This is Francis from Lagos. Let's try to be precise.
Right.
Concerning the issue of single-use plastic and the VIO issue that you mentioned this morning, that's what I want to speak about. You see,
please go ahead.
government is all about people, the masses that they are put there to serve. But incidentally, you begin to wonder the kind of persons that you have in government. Ordinarily, this issue of single-use plastic is of concern to everybody because of our environment. So nobody is denying that. But of course, if government wants to take any action, then naturally the first thing to do is to create an alternative. If you are going to ban single-use plastic and the pure water sachet thing, obviously you need to involve the stakeholder, in this case, the people themselves. You understand? Because if you take any action that concerns the use of single-use plastic and the pure water, then the real effect is that it's going to turn on the ordinary this pure water. Okay? There is no pipe-borne public water facility anywhere, particularly in not just Lagos, around the whole federation. There's none whatsoever, from Abuja to Lagos to Port Harcourt to Delta State. Everybody rely on this pure water thing. So how can you come suddenly one morning you wake up and then you tell the people no more pure water? How do you want them to survive? And you're not providing any alternative.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing.
No alternative whatsoever. So how do you want the people to survive?
Yeah.
As I speak with you this morning here, I just collected bags of sachet water. Because that's just the only means by which we get water to survive.
How much did you buy?
There is no other means. So the Lagos State government is not providing alternative, and then people will physically one morning you wake up and then you want to ban this thing. Hello?
Francis, how much did you buy it for?
Hello?
Can you hear us? How much did you buy
Okay.
the
So that's not fair. Now concerning the GIO thing, it's a laudable thing. In Lagos here, they become a top on the tourist. I hope that the state government, will listen and then take a decisive. They are a problem to motorists in Lagos State. They are a problem. GIO, they become a menace, a huge menace. A huge menace. They are not there to do their work, but to extort money from the public, from the motoring public. And this is bad enough.
All right. Thanks, Francis.
You guys should do more enough.
All right. Thanks a lot, Francis.
The message of the people across to the people in corridors of power.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Francis. And I mean, he's echoing the same sentiments that in a way we've been able to say we completely understand it. If you're going to do this, you have to ensure that it's not going to cause undue hardship on the average Nigerian who's just trying to feed and who can't even afford to buy pure water in the first place.
Yeah, so. I mean, so I agree with the idea of a phased out, process, but there has to be proper public enlightenment as to why it is being done. Not just announcing a ban. There has to be, proper enlightenment and, like he mentioned, carrying stakeholders along. The effect of or the use of proper communication amongst, all stakeholders is important. Let people know that it's dangerous. Because if you look at some of the things that cause, blockage of drainage systems across Lagos State, not just in Lagos, across Nigeria, it is a lot of times, these styrofoam and, of course, the pure water sachets, as they are popularly called. Those are some of the things that cause, a lot of blocking of the drainages. So
and
those things are important. But you need a society that has pipe-borne water, clean pipe-borne water, first of all, across the state. You need a society that has proper waste management across the state. And then you can, start to have these conversations about, and of course, proper income, also across the state. Because the people who, are buying sachets of pure water, first of all, the water is not even that pure. For those who have done proper research, a lot of that water is not really clean for consumption. But those people are those who cannot afford to buy water in bottles, and so if you then stop them from buying water in sachets and they can't afford, the water in bottles, what next? What do they do then? So these are, I believe, conversations. And of course, the fast food sellers as well, those who sell food at the roadside, who can't afford to buy the regular takeaway plates that everyone uses, the recyclable plates. That's what they use, styrofoam. So
we'll go back to the olden days, the days of Adam and Eve. We start using leaf, more leaf to buy rice. It would be nice to see you eating rice.
That's not bad. That's not bad, but I was, quoting the Rwanda example and saying that there are certain stages that you need to get to before you then make that kind of ban, and I don't think Lagos State has gotten to that stage yet, which is providing pipe-borne water, clean pipe-borne water across the state for every single person, and then providing a very effective waste management agency across the state, a very effective, and it's not knocking Lawma, they do what they can, but if we had a very, very effective one, if we also had properly functioning local governments, a lot of all these conversations would not be heaped on the state government. If Etiosa and Ikeja and every local government area in Lagos State was fully functional and they knew what it required to clean their gutters and to effectively take care of waste, we would have less of these things. But I don't think we have local governments that are functional on that level to clean up marketplaces and clean up bus parks and all of that. That's why we eventually get back to the state government. But of course, I think one of the key things here is, or the key conversations here are the conversations on security and the arguments whether we need foreign mercenaries to help with our security challenges or not. Of course, the Chief of Defense Staff says we do not need foreign mercenaries. On this Nigerian newspaper, if you can see on the front page there, it says 7,260 persons have been killed by bandits in 2 years. And that is a country that, is not at war. Ex-head of state Abdulsalam Abubakar laments the evil of insecurity in northern Nigeria. Do we need the current administration to be able to set deadlines or timelines, if possible, for the fight against insecurity? Many people would argue that that's not logical, because that's not how you fight insecurity. You don't set a timeline and say, okay, you must be done. I understand that. But maybe if we had situations like that, it might make the fight even more, it might put security agencies on their toes and ensure that we achieve much more in the fight against insecurity. But bear in mind that the fight against insecurity is simply not killing bandits or arresting bandits. It is also ensuring that our borders are secure. It is ensuring that we stop the proliferation of small arms. It is fighting unemployment in Nigeria. There's many things, just like the Rwanda situation that I mentioned with regards styrofoam and plastics. It's the same thing with security. You can't fight security by simply bringing out the big guns and shooting as many bandits as possible. Many more will arise. How do we stop or reduce proliferation of small arms across Nigeria? How do we make our borders, more secure and ensure that we don't have random people just walking into Nigeria from different parts of the world? None of the weapons that these bandits are used are locally produced. They brought into Nigeria. And so, and of course, proper investigation into the financial dealings across the country.
Right. I mean, there's another story that I'd hoped we could take, but we can't take it, obviously, because we've run out of time. He's talking about, again, court summons ex-Kogi Governor Bello over alleged 110 billion naira fraud. Let's move away from the papers to other stories this morning, and we'll take a very quick break. When we come back, Top Stories continues. A federal high court in Abuja has prohibited the Vehicle Inspection Office, VIO, from stopping vehicles, impounding or confiscating them, and imposing fines on motorists. The judgment delivered by Justice Evelyn Maha on October 2nd was in response to a fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by human rights activist Abubakar Mashal.
The court ruled that VIO and its officials have no legal basis to stop, impound, or confiscate vehicles or impose fines on motorists. Justice Maha described such actions as wrongful, oppressive, and unlawful. A restraining order was issued against the VIO, the Director of Road Transport, Area Commander in Jabi, and Team Leader in Jabi, preventing them and their agents from impounding or confiscating vehicles and imposing fines. Joining us is legal practitioner and managing partner at Crescent Cradle Attorneys, Samson Ojudomo Onuche. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the program.
All right. I want us, to first of all, like that you help us break down the infringement on the civil rights that was stated in the court. Help us understand what exactly the argument is here.
Okay. Now, what the action was about was that the matter was instituted for a breach of fundamental right of the applicants. Now, what it simply means was that the applicant applied to the court for the court to interpret if his fundamental right has been breached by the act of the VIO stopping and then restricting his movement by way of trying to impound his car or arrest or search the car or inspect the papers. So what the lawyer looked at, or the human rights activist who instituted this matter looked at, was that his rights has actually, the freedom of movement has been infringed by this particular body, that is the VIO. And he has it that he looked at it that he has a right to actually pursue this infringement and of his right before the High Court. That's why he instituted this action under a fundamental rights suit for the court to actually interpret the provision of the law if his right has been infringed by the VIO. So that is what the action was all about.
Okay, and what legal basis was the VIO initially using to impound vehicles and impose fines? Because that has been going on for many years. And these fines have been paid to the state governments across the country.
Now, when you look at the VIO critically, one key thing that you will notice is that there is no law that has established the VIO in the FCT. What has gone on over the years was that the VIO has been operating under the delegated powers that has been given by the president to the minister of the FCT. Under such delegated power, the minister of FCT has the power to make rules that has to do with road traffic offenses within FCT. Now, the VIO, which is a directorate under the minister of FCT, has been operating under that delegated power, but there is no particular law that establishes the VIO. I know as at the last dispensation, there was a law that was trying to establish the VIO, and it went through I think almost the third reading, but it didn't skate through the process before that particular house was dissolved. So the VIO currently is operating under a delegated power that has been given to the Minister of FCT, but there is no specific law establishing the VIO or mandating the VIO to impound cars and also impose fine. So that is what is presently the status quo.
All right. So now the court has given judgments, that would ensure that going forward, this should not happen again. But there's no guarantee that this will not happen again if we know how things happen correctly. So what would be the next steps if the VIO still continues in part? I mean, I'm hoping that they adhere to the court's judgment. But what would be the next steps if the VIO still goes ahead to impound vehicles, and to administer fines against people who have allegedly committed traffic offenses?
Now, the position of the law is quite clear. If there is an infringement on your right and if somebody is going contrary to what the law has said, there is a provision, there are provisions of the law that allows you to actually enforce those rights in court and also to ensure that there is compliance. Now, if the VIO continues to infringe on this right and individuals and members of the society feels that their right has been infringed based on what is on ground, then they have the right to maintain an action against the VIO, and the court has the power to also impose the necessary sanction on the VIO. But I believe that they are law-abiding agency, and they will continue to abide by the ruling of the courts. So, it's my belief that we will not fall down to that particular stage where people will no longer abide by the rules or by the judgment of the courts. So that's my belief.
So what happens now when you're driving tomorrow and the VIO stop you? Because according to the ruling, we're seeing here that the officials have no legal basis to stop, impound, or confiscate vehicles or impose fines on motorists. So what happens when they are trying to stop you or trying to impound the vehicle? What should the citizen at that point do?
I wouldn't advise that if your vehicle is trying to be impounded or seized, I wouldn't advise that you also go out of your way to break law and order. I will advise that you also comply, and there are also legal means in which you can enforce or you can actually push down your rights. So if your vehicle is being impounded by the VIO or your movement is being restricted by the VIO, there are legal means in which you can pursue such rights. So I wouldn't advise that any citizen go around, break down law and order by trying to forcefully see how the VIO can comply. So it is not within their power. There are other legal means that you can go about in enforcing your rights. So that is my advice.
Yeah, but just to be clear, every state has its traffic laws. Like Lagos State, for example, has its own traffic laws. Who then is meant to enforce those laws? If the court rules that VIO cannot impound, cannot fine, cannot, hold anyone liable for breaking traffic rules and regulations. Because even if you look at the Lagos State Vehicle Inspection Service, it says here, Lagos State Vehicle Inspection Service, popularly known as V Inspection Unit, I believe it's the same thing with VIO, they wear the same uniform, established in 2012 by the Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola. It says the Vehicle Inspection Service is one of the enforcement agencies of the state government responsible for implementing the compliance on road traffic laws. So, I mean, there seems to be some friction here with both views.
Now, one thing that we will try to understand is that when it comes to road traffic rules, these are matters that are not within the exclusive list that only the federal government can address. It is matters that fall under, it is not even on the concurrent list that the federal and the state government can address. These are matters that falls under, that are residual powers that the state government has the power to make laws that will bind the citizens of such states on those issues. Now, if Lagos has made a law, a traffic law, and then that law has passed through the Lagos State House of Assembly, then that law binds the people in Lagos, and the law is binding within Lagos. So you will understand that the law in Lagos does not bind the people in Abuja, because each state governor has the right to make laws that has to do with these traffic offenses. And in the FCT, who makes this law, it has to be or come from the Minister of FCT, and it has to go through the House of Representatives for this law to be assented. So the law in Lagos State, there is no problem with the law in Lagos State if it has actually gone through the process and the House of Assembly in Lagos State has assented this law, and an agency has been created in Lagos.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that this ruling doesn't affect the whole country, it's just in Abuja.
It's just in Abuja, yes. I will clearly say that this ruling does not affect the whole country. It only affects Abuja.
Okay. I think it was important that we clarify that, because the way the story was told initially, it sounded like, across the whole country, VIO can no longer stop, or impound or impose fines on motorists. And so I think it was important that we clarify that. And so Lagos State residents or Benue State or, Delta residents would then have to maybe approach the courts in their state to see if, they would also get a favorable ruling in that case. Is that what we think would happen next?
Yes, that's true. That's the position.
Okay. All right. It's been quite, we'll of course see how things turn out. We're hoping to see what will happen in other parts of the country, because I'm sure that there are other people in other parts of the country that had been rejoicing initially until they now found out that it's just Abuja and the bubble has been burst. Samson Ojodomo Onuche, the legal practitioner and managing partner at Crest and Cradle Attorneys, thank you very much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me on the program.
All right. I do think that the conversation with law enforcement agents, especially those who deal with transport like LASMA, VIO, and even the police in some cases, it's quite an interesting relationship they have with citizens. It's almost like it's war when you're seeing them on the road. There are people who would call to ask you, oh, please, that road you are passing, and they're LASMA officials. Sometimes it's not necessarily that people don't have their papers. Sometimes it's just because you don't want the inconvenience of having to go through the whole rigmarole, and at the end of the day...
But I think that is wrong. I think it's one of the flaws that we have as people. And if you remember last week on Which Way Nigeria, I raised those questions, about people who want a better country, but they themselves, how much of yourself is sincere and honest, as a citizen. Do you pay your taxes? Do you, keep your streets clean? And all of that. The little things that we should do. Do you run a traffic light every now and then when you see a red light? Do you just drive through it? Like you see that every day in Lagos. And so, what authority do you have to demand that your government or your governor or your leaders, are accountable when you yourself cannot even be accountable? And if you bring it down to traffic rules and regulations, for the average person who is avoiding road safety or avoiding LASMA or whoever it is, or VIO, arguably it's mostly because they have one thing or the other that is not in check with their vehicles, either their papers or fire extinguisher or some of all those things. And I think that for us to, as I've repeated myself, for us to birth a better society, we should be able to at least be good ourselves. We must be better as a people if we want to then demand that government is better. And so
I agree with you.
Don't avoid those places. If you know that every one of your papers is correct, if you know that you've not broken any laws, why are you avoiding them?
Sometimes it's not necessarily, and I'm not holding brief, but it's not necessarily because people are afraid of their papers being complete. Sometimes it's just because it's needless conversation, needless time wasting. You're trying to work within a certain time. And because we know that the way that some of these people operate, they operate based on how flashy your car looks. A very terrible tipper will be walking with three tires like this, and will pass you, and they won't stop them.
I agree that there is that inconvenience.
They'll tell you pass. Where are your papers? Bring this, bring that. And at the end of the day, if you provide everything, they'll now tell you happy weekend.
Well, I agree that there's that inconvenience, which exists, which must be fixed as well. And I agree with you that, there are certain places around Lekki, for example, that you wouldn't see a police checkpoint except it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Absolutely.
If it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they don't show up. There's no crimes in this area. It's Tuesday, but once it's a Friday night, they're out. Because of course, it
People
seems
will be
like their
out.
target market,
Exactly.
is going to be out on Friday nights. That's what it seems like. So I agree that those flaws also exist within, the officers and within the system. But I think that both parties need to do better, as Nigerians and as government. And if we want to have, my argument is that the reason that we permit and we understand and we tolerate some flaws in government is because we accept that we are not perfect as a people, or we do not give everything to at least be the best quality of citizens that we are. If we had majority of Nigerians ensuring that they, followed rules and regulations and they respected every law that, exists, they paid their taxes, they do not beat the traffic light, they have all their papers in check, they're not dubious in any way, shape, or form, which is not realistic. Every society has dubious people, and I accept that. But if we had majority of people like that, you would hear a stronger voice condemning certain things in government. The reason that you find people willing to defend certain things that you see in government is because they see themselves in that person. They see themselves in that flaw that you're seeing. When there's rigging of elections, there's a part of it, the Nigerian mentality that understands that, well, maybe I would have also sold my vote. Or, we'll buy votes. It's not perfect, but it's okay.
It's not
there's a part of us that sees
I'd not buy
ourselves.
Votes, but at least you can pay for special center to go and write the exam and get
those type of things. Like listen, the reason that Nigerians, as educated as we are, were able to permit a president that wasn't able to bring his WAEC certificate, it's come of all these reasons. The reason that you will see somebody released from prison for money laundering in Nigeria, politician, and you will see thousands come out to celebrate and party with this person, is because of that flaw that we see in ourselves, that we see a bit of ourselves in that thing. So we must be better as a people.
We need a total overhaul, right?
Yes.
Our moral fabric is broken. And it's easy for one person to say, oh, you are flawed or you are a corrupt person because you do this, do that. But they also forget, like the Holy Book says, that you're busy trying to remove the log in another person's eye and you haven't removed the speck in yours. So we're not able to reflect sometimes and see that even me, when I do this, I'm cutting corners. When I'm jumping a queue, I'm also guilty, when I'm trying to use connections to be able to get certain privileges.
All of those things.
All these things are the ways in which our moral fabric has been broken down. In a society that works, these things will not exist as much, or not that they won't exist at all, but with the intensity with which they exist here. So we need to go back to the drawing board and find a way to fix our moral fabric. It's in the smallest things, in the small units in the home. Parents, your child goes out, you know that this child is not working, this person is in university or in secondary school, and they are buying a car and they are bringing to you, and you are celebrating them. So you should also go and check yourself, because where did this child get this money from? They're not working. You didn't buy the car for them. Who provided that car for them? So you're celebrating a child knowing that they have gotten money from fraudulent means. It's a lot that really needs to be unpacked. But we hope that we can, through these conversations that we have on television, ignite the part of us that makes us go back to reflect the ways that we individually contribute to the corruption that bedevils our country. As we wrap up, let's share what's happening later today on News Central.
Jasiri comes up at 10 a.m. West African time. As always, we bring you News Central now at 3 p.m. West African time, and also Politics HQ much later today, 7 p.m. West African time. And this is where we say goodbye. After a very interesting week, thank you very much for being with us all through the week. We encourage you to, of course, join Breakfast Extra tomorrow with Judith Atibi and Mazino Appeal.
I need to ask if on Sundays they always announce Breakfast Central the way we announce Breakfast Extra every weekend. Because if they don't announce...
Maybe you need to watch on Sunday.
I need to watch on Sunday. I'll watch towards the end and find out. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. Like I always say, do not drink and drive. I know it's Friday, but make sure you turn up with sense. I'll see you on Monday. I'm Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawan.
Have a good day.